Dragon Ball is not just well known for its characters and visually appealing transformations, but also its villains. It's safe to say that Akira Toriyama was a once-in-generational talent when it came to design, unique personality, and skill set for these characters. Two villains in particular have caused a lot of debating within the Dragon Ball community in regards to who is stronger. Those villains are Buuhan and Kid Buu, and today we're going to settle the argument and figure out which margin is the mightiest. Before we get into the discussion, in case you were unaware, both the Dragon Ball Z original anime and DBZ manga are two separate continuities, which means we'll be going over both to see which version of Buu is the strongest in that continuity. But before that, subscribe. Going for 40k, so if you enjoy, sub up. Prior to becoming Buuhan, Buu was the main threat that Goku and Gohan were facing. Buu even goes as far as to state he's the strongest margin, despite being Kid Buu millions of years ago. However, some fans of Dragon Ball believe that Buu only said this because he's absorbed Gotenks. Gotenks is a fusion that's known for being cocky and overconfident, and Buu later proves himself wrong as he goes on to absorb Gohan, becoming Buuhan. However, even if that's the case, all this proves is that Buu is wrong, and he's not only become stronger by absorbing Gohan, but has surpassed Kid Buu not once but twice, as Buuhan states himself that he's become even stronger despite declaring his Buu form as his strongest form. But getting back to Buu, he's so strong that even a revived SSJ-free Goku is no match for him and must avoid fighting at all costs. Although Goku did get stronger, it's stated that upon being revived, you're initially not at full strength, as we saw with Vegeta against Kid Buu. However, Buu goes on to lose power due to SSJ-free Gotenks diffusing inside of him, which causes him to revert to Buu. Goku is ecstatic as he states that Gohan is now strong enough for Buu, but notice he only said Gohan. He didn't include himself in the sentence and made no effort to finish off Buu, which means that even in a weaker state than before, he was still over SSJ-free Goku. However, we know what happens next. Buu catches Ultimate Gohan off guard, or Mystic Gohan, via a piece of himself he ripped off, absorbs Gohan, and becomes Buuhan. Buuhan himself states he's become even stronger than before, and Goku is in serious trouble. He originally intended to fuse with Gohan via the Potara, but now he no longer can. Goku initially considers fusing with Dende or Hercule, but both are incredibly weak and would make the finished product, the fusion, much more weaker. However, Goku is lucky as Vegeta has now been revived and is back on Earth. He quickly goes over to Vegeta and says that they have to fuse against Buuhan, and it's the only option, which is evident as even SSJ-free Goku and SSJ-2 Vegeta gets absolutely fodderized by Buuhan. Eventually, both Goku and Vegeta fuse into Vegito, with base Vegito being stated to be stronger than Super Saiyan 3. However, while in the anime, Vegito actually fights Buuhan in base before jumping into Super Saiyan, he just jumps straight to Super Saiyan in the manga and begins to pound on him. Despite having absorbed Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and Piccolo, having access to their power and techniques, Buuhan is absolutely nothing compared to Vegito. Vegito is so powerful that Buuhan has to resort to absorbing him in order to defeat him. However, this was actually part of Vegito's plan. Vegito could have finished Buuhan at any time, but he didn't want to risk killing his sons and Piccolo. So he devised a strategy to be so powerful that even Buuhan had to acknowledge there was no chance for him to win, which would cause him to get desperate. And we know when villains get desperate in Dragon Ball, they take desperate measures. In this case, being Buuhan absorbing Vegito. Vegito would then plan to defeat Buuhan from the inside by freeing everybody, but he actually defuses back into Goku and Vegeta. Eventually, Goku and Vegeta are able to free Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and Piccolo, which causes Buuhan to revert to Super Buu. But even Super Buu is too strong for Goku and Vegeta to fight, as Goku is annoyed at the fact that Vegeta crushed the Potara. Super Buu is so confident that he can defeat Goku and Vegeta, and shows delight in the fact that they can no longer fuse and overpower him. Yet Ultimate Gohan was able to absolutely destroy this version of Super Buu that both Goku and Vegeta fighting together would have no chance of defeating. Goku and Vegeta then find Fat Buu trapped inside Super Buu, and Goku states they should be able to free him. Vegeta gauges Super Buu's reaction and sees visible fear on his face before he realizes that releasing Fat Buu would also make him weaker. This is the case as Kid Buu arrives. But Vegeta is partially wrong, as even though Kid Buu should be weaker than the previous versions, he's still stronger than both Goku and Vegeta, though Vegeta states that Goku should be powerful enough to beat Kid Buu with a full-powered attack. Goku agrees and says he could defeat Kid Buu Buu if he wasn't drained and at 100%. However, Goku could not defeat Kid Buu when he was at full power at first due to the fight being dragged out and due to Goku losing energy and stamina the whole time due to Super Saiyan 3. Goku eventually charges up a spirit bomb with energy gathered from across the universe, but still struggles to vanquish Kid Buu due to not being at full power. However, a wish is made to restore Goku to full strength and is able to defeat Kid Buu, ending the threat for good. In case it isn't obvious by now, Buuhan is far more powerful than Kid Buu, strictly in the DBZ manga. Goku and Vegeta had no chance against Buuhan or Super Buu and required a fusion who's stronger than a Super Saiyan 3 in base and is unquantifiable amounts of times stronger than both Goku and Vegeta due to the fusion multiplier and rival boost to even stand a chance against Buuhan. Compare that to Kid Buu, who in the manga was defeated by SSJ3 Goku and the Spirit Bomb. There's also a statement that correlates with the manga that calls Buuhan the mightiest margin when facing off against Vegeta, but no statements for Kid Buu are made for the manga. In fact, El Manga Legendario doesn't even state that Kid Buu is the strongest in the manga. So in the DBZ manga, Buuhan would be above Kid Buu. The feats are more favorable for Buuhan as fusion was required to put him down, while this Goku was enough to stop Kid Buu, albeit it wasn't easy. But is this the same case for the manga? Now we get to the DBZ manga, where the scaling is far more different and arguably more complex than the manga. This is because the anime includes episodes which would be considered filler when compared to the manga, but they are still considered anime canon. This may seem insignificant, but as we go deeper into the conversation, you'll begin to understand just how significantly this changes the matchup. To start, we see Super Buu, who begins to transform from Buff Buu to Pure Buu, who is more commonly known as Kid Buu. Now, at first glance, it may seem like Buu is getting weaker as he's lost Fat Buu, but it's actually the opposite. He's getting stronger. However, the transformation concludes, and Super Buu has now reverted to his original form, Kid Buu. Goku and Vegeta at first are relieved, as they believe by taking Fat Buu, Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and Piccolo from Super Buu's body they've made him weaker, but they failed. And this is a misconception. Goku and Vegeta were judging Kid Buu based off his physical appearance, not his actual ki. This is simply a case of Vegeta underestimating an opponent, which isn't uncommon at all. You can argue that it makes no sense because of the fact that if they had created an enemy as powerful as before, they wouldn't be celebrating, and it's extremely illogical for Vegeta and Goku to do that. Especially considering Goku and Vegeta were strong as kids, have strong kids, and have been at the mercy of small opponents like Frieza before. The problem is you need to remember what show you're watching here, Dragon Ball. Though amazing and game-changing, as an anime and manga, it tends to have inconsistencies in writing sometimes. This wouldn't even be the first time that Vegeta has underestimated an opponent based off physical appearance. Way back in the Namek saga, Vegeta, Krillin, Piccolo, and Gohan were all panicking after sensing Frieza's ki in his final form. Yet once the dust settles, they actually see Frieza's form and calm down and drop their guard due to him looking smaller. Piccolo is the only one who's still on guard and reminds everyone to never underestimate an opponent just based off the fact they are smaller. Piccolo learned this lesson well way back in original Dragon Ball, and even during Dragon Ball Z, as Vegeta was actually far stronger than Nappa despite being an ant in comparison to Nappa. Despite Vegeta hearing Piccolo's warnings, his arrogance gets the better of him and causes him to be brutally beaten by Frieza, and this even happens again against Perfect Cell, as he states he got smaller in size compared to Semi-Perfect Cell, but in actuality, Perfect Cell was far stronger. Even Goku, a master martial artist who should know very well himself to not judge a book by its cover, is more focused on Buu's physical appearance than his ki. It makes sense and is in character for both Vegeta and Goku to still not learn their lessons from previous encounters and continue to make the same stupid mistake because that's just how they are. That's and Toriyama doesn't remember every minuscule detail in his story compared to the other people he's working with, which I'll touch more on later. Contrary to what it says, Kid Buu actually continued to increase in strength after losing the Grand Supreme Kai or Fat Buu, despite their reactions. Pure Buu is more of a lore character, so his main source of strength is his origin story. People often use his right here to claim that Pure Buu only decreased in strength from absorbing the Grand Supreme Kai and not the South Kai. The reason for this belief is because he makes no mentions of him specifically decreasing in power from the South Kai, and him claiming that the Dai Kai's gentle personality made him more controllable, which falls right in hand with his power decreasing from gaining a heart. Except this doesn't ever specifically state that the South Kai doesn't also have a gentle personality. On the contrary, he does, and the South Kai indeed did also weaken Pure Buu. This is supported by El Manga Legendario, which states Kid Buu suffered from absorptions. The idea of Kid Buu being the strongest form of Buu would be the exact kind of contradiction that Toriyama would want in his story. People try to argue that this interview is wrong because only the interviewer stated the smallest characters are the strongest, and Toriyama never said this, and was only answering the question. However, you need to analyze what he is trying to convey. It goes perfectly with the story of Dragon Ball, and especially with the Buu saga. Toriyama loves to go against people's expectations. If you read or watch the Buu saga carefully, you know that making Kid Buu the strongest version of Buu would defy the audience's expectations. As of right now, you expect Kid Buu to be the weakest due to his size and his lack of absorptions, compared to that of Buuhan, who had Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and Piccolo. However, that's exactly the contrast Toriyama wanted to create in order to have a contradictory plot. The premise of the Buu saga throughout the time that Super Buu was around was that the more absorptions he has, the more power he possesses. While the idea of Kid Buu being the strongest contradicts that paradigm of being strong without the need of any sort of external help besides his pure power, we also know this because of the way the interviewer worded the question. The interviewer specifically mentioned how the smallest characters tend to be the strongest, mentioning Kid Buu, and Toriyama had no refutes towards it. In fact, the way Toriyama responds implies an agreement towards the interviewer's claim. One of the main things people use to attempt to prove that Kid Buu is weaker than Buuhan is the anime via a statement from El Manga Legendario. When they say, "not so strong form," they are accounting for the fact that Kid Buu, unlike every other form of himself that we saw up until that point, was a fusion. A fusion would obviously be a stronger form than an B, unused form, but that doesn't mean the person that is in A form is weaker than another version of himself in B other form. For example, it states in El Manga Legendario that Super Saiyan 3 is Goku's strongest form when putting fusions aside. That means fusions are considered forms as well, and a fused counterpart if yourself is going to be considered a stronger form than your non-fused form, even if that non-fused fighter is stronger than the fused fighter. And the Dragon boxes also state this will create a powered up form, which also is a bonus that proves fusions are considered forms. And no, this does not contradict Kid Buu being stronger than Buuhan in the anime. In fact, despite Vegeta being stronger than a Super Saiyan 3 in base, Vegeta himself states that the power that Super Saiyan 2 Goku and Kid Buu are displaying is in an entirely different league, despite having the memories of Vegeta, which not only mean he remembers how powerful that fusion was, but he'd also remember how strong Buuhan was. This sounds crazy as hell, as it implies Super Saiyan 2 Goku over Vegeta in the anime, which I won't give any input to, as that's an entirely different topic. But as crazy as it sounds, it isn't uncommon. Power cliffing has been a problem for Dragon Ball since Z. A good example would be during the Buu saga. We know that Saiyans not only get Zenkais on the brink of death, but also apparently in the DBZ anime they even get Zenkais after being revived. Two specific examples being Goku and Vegeta. Prior to being revived, it was stated that base Gotenks after training the Room Spirit and Time had surpassed Mao and Vegeta, yet Goku and Vegeta have to fight against the fakes of Gotenks, Piccolo, and Gohan. It's stated in the Daizenshu that these fake versions of the fighters are as strong as the real versions, and yet Super Saiyan Vegeta is able to defeat SSJ3 Gotenks and Piccolo, the former being 400 times stronger than base Gotenks, who's already massively above SSJ2 Vegeta. Now onto Goku, who's a more interesting case. We know that Goku got revived via Elder Kai, who gave him his life energy. Elder Kai had about 1,000 years of life energy left within him, and we know that energy is a huge component in Ki, which affects how powerful one's Ki is. Gaining thousands of years of life energy from a Kai would give Goku a massive power amp, but there's no exact multiplier or number. However, Goku became so strong that as just a Super Saiyan, he was able to surpass and defeat fake Ultimate Gohan, who was equal to real Gohan in strength. Keep in mind that Ultimate Gohan was far stronger than Super Buu, who's far stronger than Fat Buu, who required Goku to become a Super Saiyan 3 to fight and be capable of defeating, but wasn't able to do so due to his time left on Earth. This is absolutely insane considering Ultimate Gohan is far stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Goku in the Buu saga, yet the anime turns the scaling upside down and has Goku surpassing his son in just Super Saiyan. We even see both SSJ Goku and SSJ Vegeta beat up Super Buu, whereas in the manga Goku did not want to fight him. The next thing to debunk would be Goku stating that Super Buu would still be stronger than either of them. Because of this, people find it very illogical because this implies Super Buu is stronger than Gohan, since Goku, who was stronger than Gohan at this point in time, was scared of Super Buu. It's understandable, but it's wrong. Super Buu was indeed stronger than Gohan at this point. The same way Saiyans increase in battle, so does Buu. Evidence for this in the anime as base Vegeta pummels Buuhan, then later on increases so much in power to the point where his attacks have the power to damage Super Vegeta. People also use the fact that Goku was scared of Super Buu and desperately wanted to fuse, but was confident he could fight against Kid Buu. Firstly, Kid Buu was actually suppressed at the time as Goku underestimates him. Goku is blown away by his power, but later drops down to base form and wants Vegeta as he can barely move a muscle. Kid Buu being suppressed in the anime makes sense considering Fat Buu was landing hits on Kid Buu, despite Kid Buu logically being far stronger than Fat Buu due to the scaling mentioned previously. Goku crushing the Potara also displays his character development acceptance of his Saiyan heritage. Rather than relying on it as a tool, he puts the fate of the universe in his hands with his own power, which even Vegeta acknowledges to be very Saiyan-like of Goku. This may seem as selfish as the entire universe is at stake, but disregarding everything and wanting a fair fight is very Goku-like. Toriyama even backs this up by stating Goku's motive was to fight one-on-one to make it fair as possible, which is what was being conveyed in the scene where he crushes the Potara, and even the interviewer agrees with it. So Kid Buu's power plays zero part in Goku's decision to be confident, crush the Potara, and face him alone. He didn't crush the Potara specifically because of Kid Buu, but because of his warrior instincts. Another thing that people state is that while this Buuhan is the strongest version of Buu, Kid Buu is just the most dangerous and unpredictable. First off, if you pay attention to the context of that dialogue, the subject being discussed in an exchange between the Elder Kai and Kibito Shin was Buu's power. Right before that statement of him being the most difficult, they were discussing Buu losing power from gaining a heart, so it's more likely they were referring to him in terms of power than something else. How would saying he is the most dangerous or difficult Buu not imply he was superior to all the other Buus? I've read a bunch of posts on here from other Quorras and they've all seemed to literally think the same. They claim pure Buu is the most dangerous Buu because they believe he has this unpredictable nature. While I understand that, it makes no sense in the context of Dragon Ball, because in Dragon Ball there would literally be no way for him to be unpredictable without being superior to someone in terms of either speed or power, in which both correlate. Kui tries to outsmart Vegeta despite the power difference via strategy and unpredictability, but this has zero effect. Being unpredictable in a verse like Dragon Ball is essentially impossible. You have Goku who has literal precognition hacks as shown against Hit and Trunks. So twisting the statement to make it seem as if Kid Buu isn't the strongest Buu is just false. The anime even clarifies this so-called statement and only further supports Kid Buu being the strongest. Finally, there are just so many statements that support the anime version of Kid Buu being stronger than Buuhan. Dragon Ball boxes which retell the story via the perspective of the anime also label Kid Buu as the strongest. But back to my previous statements about Toriyama, there are many credible sources for Dragon Ball outside of the creator himself. He's admitted that Toritaro knows far more about Dragon Ball and even some of his staff. The argument that the anime is non-canon because Toriyama hardly worked on it, therefore Kid Buu is weaker, is just a stupid argument. Toriyama not only accepts both the anime and manga as canon, but the word hardly means only just or barely, meaning he did work on the anime slightly, but didn't have as much involvement as others. Toriyama has overseen anime projects relating to Dragon Ball such as Kai, and even if he wasn't involved, he accepts material that's outside of Dragon Ball as canon and a reliable source of information like the Daizenshu. So the point that I'm trying to make is that it is possible for an author to have little or no involvement with a project and still accept it as part of his perspective, or in this case canon. Both the anime and manga can coexist as canon, and it's literally happening right now. We have the Dragon Ball Super anime and the DBS manga. Both are canon and acceptable sources, but the sequence of events happen differently, but still have the same outcomes. Zamasu is defeated by Zeno in the manga and anime, Jiren is defeated by Goku and Frieza in the anime and manga. So to conclude, Kid Buu is far stronger than Buuhan in the anime. His hacks allows him to grow in power like a Saiyan, and the scaling is completely different compared to the manga. SJ2 Goku and Kid Buu's fight was so powerful, it was in a whole different league to what Vegeta has experienced, despite previously facing Buuhan as Vegeta. SJ3 Goku in the manga is weaker than Ultimate Gohan, but in the anime, he only needs Super Saiyan to defeat Ultimate Gohan and fight Super Buu with Vegeta. There were also far more statements supporting Buuhan being stronger than Buuhan. The power scaling in the anime is just so crazy, it makes the future arcs look tame in comparison. However, in the manga, Buuhan wouldn't be stronger than Kid Buu. Buuhan doesn't have the hacks that allows him to grow stronger, and Goku never fought Gohan inside of Kid Buu. So anime Kid Buu is stronger than anime Buuhan, while this manga Buuhan is stronger than Kid Buu.